Hello, welcome. You're watching Arcane Tablets. It's after midnight. Time to talk about some interesting things. So, I've been putting this off for a while, probably because, I don't want to fully accept it myself entirely. It's hard to change and let go of things, right? But here's the deal real simple for you. Would you like to get to a better timeline? Would you like to ascend to a better reality? Whatever kind of terminology you want to use, you know what I'm talking about, right? Get away from the stuff that's happening here, right? Especially, in the mainstream kind of community and in the central timelines going on. Become fruitarian or frugivore, whatever you want to say. All right? it's that's kind of it. That's kind of it. I'm not gonna really eat fruit. Fruit, nuts, and seeds. Anything that is a fruit, okay? Anything that has seeds in it, okay? Obviously, so, we're talking about more than just fruits that we know, all the sweet, delicious fruits that we think about when, I say the word fruit, right? Berries and oranges and whatever, okay? But also things like a tomato or a cucumber or a pepper. Lots of other things. There's a lot of things that we sort of classify as vegetables because they're more savory. But the point is that they're fruits if they've got seeds in them. And this includes tree nuts as well, right? Obviously pistachios and walnuts, right? Pecans, cashews, and all of those other good tree nuts. Not peanuts, mind you. That's a legume there, all right? So, gotta be a little careful. But other nuts, real nuts, fruits, nuts, and seeds is all the body needs. Fruits, nuts, and seeds, it's all your body needs. Yeah, I'm gonna. That's. Oh, you think there's a next step? I mean, yeah, follow the golden rule. Find alignment, right? Listen to your soul. Move towards the things you truly want that make you feel good, right? Love, compassion, kindness, goodness. Sure. And I'll talk more about those things. I've already talked about them. Absolutely. Good stuff. But eat fruit. Fruit, nuts, and seeds. That's basically what you need to do. I'm going to tell you something. Even just going vegan is not really enough to secure your ascension to a timeline or a reality that is going to be guaranteed to be free of dystopia. Okay? Now, being vegan is great. So please, wherever you are in your journey, if you've gotten to that point where you're vegan, good job. Absolutely. Do not be too hard on yourself. It took me so long to get to that point of just being vegan. And even then, I slipped up and had periods of backstepping over the past, 5 to 6 years. So really, it's only just more recently that I've really embraced that. But for the past couple years, I've also had this growing knowledge and intuition that it's more than just being vegan, okay? It's about eating fruits, nuts, and seeds. Because then you actually aren't killing anything, right? Technically speaking, if you're a normal vegan, you are eating a lot of things, a lot of plants and stuff, and you are ending their life cycle. Now, that's absolutely nowhere near as bad as eating animals. I want to make that very clear. Or using animal products or dominating animals and harnessing them for whatever reason, okay? So, again, big step up. There's a huge difference between being an omnivore, right, and a vegan, okay? But even if you're just vegan, I must tell you, that's not necessarily going to guarantee you finding a timeline that is free of dystopia. That's just the simplest way I can put it. We can all see what's going on. We can all see what the powers that be would like, the trajectory that they're trying to steer world civilization towards, right? So, you know what I mean. Okay? And listen, I'm not saying for sure that just being vegan is going to guarantee you getting to something, that you don't want later. But there is more of a chance that you're going to be in a more of a mild dystopian reality, let's just say. Maybe not full blown, whatever, 1984, Brave New World, The Giver, okay? But not necessarily what you're looking for. Not as much freedom as you really want. True freedom. And all the really good, beautiful, utopian stuff, right? Okay? And if you continue being an omnivore, it's going to be hard to avoid anything but mild dystopia, okay? You're probably going to get at least a mild dystopian reality, and depending on what kind of omnivore you are and what your principles are, might be a lot worse. So that's it. Okay? Yeah, you can meditate and do breath work and try to raise your vibration and get all sorts of Reiki healing and sound healing and be positive in all sorts of other ways. Try to manifest and all that stuff, right? But if you're not at least vegan and honestly really fruitarian, there's a pretty good chance, especially if you're an omnivore, as I'm saying, that you're going to be blocked from that, okay? It really does kind of come down to that, because that's so key to the golden rule, right? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you, okay? And obviously we can see that's clearly applicable when we're talking about the animals, other sentient beings, but it's also still a little bit applicable with the plants as well, okay? I'm going to tell you something else right now, right? The Lemurians and the Atlanteans, when they got to their best point, right? Their highest timeline, the apex of their civilizations, they were fruitarians, okay? They didn't even really eat true vegetables or grains or stuff like that. That's one of the reasons why, of course, modern archaeologists are so confused and constantly are like, oh, there's no megalithic civilization and blah, blah, blah. Even though there's all these megaliths all over the place, which cannot be carbon dated. So all the dates that they're giving you for those things are just based on matter, other materials found in those areas that have been carbon dated, or based on other historical records, right? People writing and saying and claiming that they built those things, right? And the other thing is that they didn't really have farming, right? Okay? Nor did they have animal pastoralism, okay? The Lemurians and the Atlanteans, right? They moved basically from a hunter-gatherer lifestyle to a fruitarian lifestyle. And that's when all the awesome magical stuff basically just opened up. And they gained all the abilities they had to manipulate all these other things and build all these wonderful megalithic structures and learn all this wonderful information, these deep metaphysical secrets about reality and how to engineer things, the geometric patterns and geomancy and all sorts of other awesome stuff. I could get super sidetracked on that, but that was their secret. They ate fruit, fruit, nuts, and seeds, okay? And went from a hunter-gatherer lifestyle to that. They stopped fishing and hunting, and they just let nature feed them. And certainly, the climactic conditions when this period was starting were highly favorable to eating lots of fruit, okay? There was a little bit more land, right? Of course, since the glaciers melted, there's a lot of areas of the world, especially, of course, the Red Sea oasis, but also Sundaland in ancient Indonesia, right? This unified kind of peninsula that ancient Indonesia was. And that's really where Lemurian civilization started, basically, okay? And then expanded out to the Pacific. And then also in the Caribbean, there was a lot more land too, in Florida and some of those places, right? Some of those islands, okay? And a lot of Atlantean civilization was there. It was also in South America as well, in Mesoamerica, absolutely. But yeah, they didn't have animal pastoralism, right? They didn't have farming. They weren't eating grains or other plants or stuff like that. They didn't need writing either. They had other ways of remembering and knowing things, right? You know about those crystal skulls and some of that crystal technology, right? And then they just built all these awesome megaliths with their minds, with the magical powers that they got, okay? Ability to manipulate stone and other matter, right? And they didn't leave much of an imprint because they understood that it was important to not harm other beings, but other life, right? Plants too, right? So they weren't even really harvesting that much wood either, okay? That's why everything is just stone, okay? So they were just making these huge gardens. They were cultivating these huge gardens of fruit, all sorts of fruit trees and plants and vines, anything that grows fruit, and tree nuts and all of that stuff, right? Okay? And then they just developed all this awesome, basically magical powers and ability to do all these other cool things and built all these massive stone megaliths, okay? Absolutely. Absolutely. The pyramids of Teotihuacan, right? The Pyramid of the Sun. Super old. A lot older than they say. Same thing at Giza. Same thing in a lot of other places in Egypt or Nan Modal in the Pacific. Or all those structures, right? Gunak Penang, right, in Indonesia. There's the powers that be know this, okay? There's tons of ancient megalithic monuments also just buried under stuff. There's lots of very pyramid-looking mountains all over the place, especially, again, in these more equatorial zones where this ancient megalithic civilization existed, right? There are lots of glaciers in North America and the northern parts of Eurasia. So civilization was much more centered towards these tropical areas, much closer to the equator, certainly, between the tropics of Cancer and Capricorn, right? And that was very conducive, of course, to their diet. These are areas where there was just tons of fruit growing. And so basically when they figured out that if you just eat fruit, nuts, and seeds, that stuff gets a lot better, that everything goes better, that you can rise to higher timelines and get all sorts of warm and fuzzy and utopian and loving and all the good stuff, right, that we're looking for. And they just rolled with that and perpetuated that. Yeah, a bunch of other stuff later happened, which led to their fall. And we'll talk a lot more about that in the future. Not even going to begin to go on that tangent right now. But naturally, as you might imagine, it is after the fall, right, when animal pastoralism started, when agriculture started, all these other things. And that basically does keep us lower, okay? It really does prevent us from accessing all that wonderful, loving, good, magical stuff, okay? And getting to these better timelines where everything's great. There's all this social justice and togetherness and wonderful, beautiful collective behavior and magical powers too. That's sweet, right? Moving blocks of stone with your mind. Using all sorts of sound techniques and other natural, organic technology, we might say. Okay? Yeah, so many of these ancient megaliths and monuments were absolutely functional machines that could do things and interacted with the earth in all these ways. All these natural, harmonious ways, which didn't, cause more destruction, right? Not like fossil fuels or other things, right? Fossil fuels are literally using dead things to fuel stuff. Not a surprise that causes a lot of pollution and problems, is it now? Much better to create like a giant pyramid, like at Giza, which is actually basically designed to harness the natural electromagnetic energy of the earth as this beautiful sort of power source and generator. And it's not exactly the same thing as our power plants. They didn't work quite like that. And they didn't need the same things like we did, all right? They didn't need electricity. They didn't care about that, okay? They were harnessing these energies for other reasons, right? The structures in Nan Model, you want to know what those were? Super cool. They're built with all these special quartz rocks, and they actually filled their channels with all these electric eels. And what they did was they were able to actually modulate the weather of the Pacific Ocean, okay? So they had all this technology which could basically calm down the natural destructive forces of nature, right? So like the Philippines and Indonesia and Southeast Asia gets blasted by typhoons and stuff like this all the time, okay? Nan Model was basically a machine, a natural stone machine that was designed to prevent that from happening. And all sorts of other stuff all over the place, okay? Had similar functions, okay? Now, I will say that when things went wrong, some of these machines did kind of backfire in a certain way because people changed and the way they were being used changed, and naturally that's a lot of what basically led to the destruction. And that's another reason, of course, why there's not as much evidence for this stuff. A lot of it was destroyed. A lot of it is underwater. All these prime zones, right? As I mentioned, Sundaland in Indonesia, okay? A lot of other areas, like where the Yonaguni Monument is, right? In the East China Sea, really, or south of Japan there. And, of course, the Persian Gulf. The Red Sea is pretty deep, so it was still mostly a lake, actually, during this period. I misspoke earlier. It was the Persian Gulf oasis is what I'm talking about. So most of the Persian Gulf was very shallow, and that was also one of these core zones. And the Persian Gulf was basically where Eden was, right? Okay, obviously. And the Caribbean as well, as I mentioned. So many of these areas, and there's some other areas as well. There's a lot of extra land in certain places. And that was offset by the fact that there was glaciers and stuff kind of making a lot of the northern hemisphere less habitable, but it kind of was for the better in this way because, of course, it was then conducive to all this fruit growing and fruit eating, right? Whereas the loss of a lot of these environments and the changing of the world, the breaking of the world, right? After the quaternary extinction and the Meltwater Pulse 1b, basically, you can go check this stuff out, right? And all this stuff which led to the current trajectory we're on, led to the rise of agriculture, the rise of animal pastoralism, which led to the rise of imperialism and other sorts of bad things, humans dominating other humans, enslaving other humans, all this stuff, okay? So, yeah. I mean, you can look into all this other cool stuff. I'm not saying don't do it. Meditate, breath work, positive vibes. You can practice manifestation techniques. You can do all sorts of other stuff, okay? Follow the golden rule, absolutely. But that's the thing. That's what I'm saying. To really carry the golden rule through to its full extent. Fruitarian. Fruits, nuts, and seeds, right? Anything that is a seed, all right? Because its life has not started. And all these trees and plants, these fruit trees and fruit plants, they've got plenty, okay? And they're fine with it. They're energetically okay with it. Like I said, if you're still a regular vegan and you're eating other plants and stuff, non-fruits, non-seeds, okay, you are still taking their life force and ending their lives prematurely, right? And again, please, it's nowhere near as bad as killing or hurting or dominating animals. It really isn't. So don't get too hard on yourself, okay? And absolutely, you just need to go in stages, okay? Oftentimes it is 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Certainly was for me for a long time. And even now, it's still challenging at times, okay? It is. We're raised in this completely different environment, especially in terms of the way we eat. I mean, it's so central to life, right? And it can be very challenging and difficult to let go of this, right? To let go of all these other foods and stuff. I mean, just letting go of animal products is incredibly challenging, right? Much less than moving from being vegan to being fruitarian, but that is the way. That is the way. This is what the Lemurians and the Atlanteans, before they got into some other stuff, did. And you better believe that the reintroduction of eating other things was absolutely central to the fall of Atlantis, okay? And there's some other things that happened before that even that really triggered this. I've talked about them a little bit in some of my other videos, but it's fine. I want to just stay on topic, talking about food right now. And you can watch some of my other videos. I will talk more about some of these things, what really kind of led to sort of this series of events then that got us to the point we're at today, right? So, yeah. It's really that simple. It really, really is. Okay? And it's not necessarily easy. God knows it's challenging. The Great Father and the Great Mother know it's challenging. Absolutely. Okay? Meat and even other non-fruit or non-seed vegan food can be very addictive. Okay? And there's some reasons for why that is as well. I'm not going to talk about that, but I'm just saying, coming from the society that we're in and the situation that we're dealing with, right? It's very challenging. There's a lot of social pressure, and it tastes good. So it's hard to give up. Okay? And there are some reasons for why those things are the way they are, all right? But you have to sort of have faith that if you keep going and keep going, you will sort of get past it, okay? Right? There are some other things influencing you and influencing your taste buds and desires, right? That have to do with eating some of these other things. And the more you move away from eating them, the more that's going to lessen. And the more you're going to be good, right? So, take your time. Well, actually, I guess I should say, don't pressure yourself to go faster than you can go, is what I'm trying to tell you, all right? But don't delay forever. I have delayed far too long myself, so if you're struggling with this, I'm right there with you, really. Like I said at the start of this video, I'm partially just making this video to keep myself on track, to keep reminding me, Alden, this is what we do. Fruits, nuts, and seeds. It's all the body needs. Fruits, nuts, seeds. It's all your body needs. All right? So, yeah. It's okay. All right? I know it's challenging. It's challenging for me too. I'm really just truly, fully embarking on this journey just now, to be honest. It's just, I can't just deny it anymore. I just have to click in and really accept it. All right? I'm drinking this cup of tea right here. Probably not. Okay? Okay? But I understand. And if we want to get where we want to get, this is the way. This is what we have to do. All right? I might also add substances. No. Okay? So, yeah, I realize that certain things might be seeds, but anything that has a narcotic effect on you is also something that it would be best to steer clear of. Okay. That includes chocolate, too. I know, that's a really tough one, right? Super tough, okay? But it's going to help keep you cleaner and help prevent interference from those who would very much like you to sleepwalk into dystopia. Fruits, nuts, and seeds, people. That's the way. That's the Lemurian way. And that was the way in Atlantis in the early days. Okay? Do your best. It might take time. Might not all come at once, but keep focusing on that. The more you give your body these things, the more your body will change. The more you will be attuned to them. The less you will crave other things. The more you'll be able to move forward. Okay? And there's still time. There's still plenty of time, relatively speaking. Okay? But not all that much time, right? This is something that if you're sort of riding the wave and really feeling the changes right now, something that you want to get going. And you really want to probably be pretty firmly in the fruitarian camp, let's just say by the start of the next decade, okay? So, if it takes you a couple years, especially if you're just freshly becoming vegan, don't be too hard on yourself, okay? And again, it's always kind of a stacking effect. The more fruits, nuts, and seeds and the less other stuff that you eat, the better, okay? So even if you have some other stuff, some true vegetables or a little bit of grains or something like that, a little bit of tea, don't crush yourself. Okay, we're all just trying to do the best we can. It's not easy. Okay? And let me also just say one more thing here. There's an idea going around that some people like to promote, who are aware of the powers that be and some of the things they desire, that somehow the powers that be actually are promoting veganism or want people to not eat meat, right? I assure you that that is not the case. I assure you, the powers that be are about as far from being vegan as you can be. So do not be fooled by that. Okay? But to a certain extent, I suspect that they are perhaps aware that just becoming vegan also is not necessarily going to fully get you to a space, a timeline, a reality where you're guaranteed to escape their clutches. I think they might know that fruits, nuts, and seeds, that's really what's going to lock you in to where you want to be. All right? And it really is just the maximum application of the golden rule. Applying it not just to animals, but the plants as well, who are not sentient in the same way that we are, or the animals are, but they're a little bit more conscious than you might realize, okay? So, they freely give their fruits to us, their seeds, right? That's really what we're supposed to eat. And this is pretty much just explained in Genesis, I might add. This is what Adam and Eve ate when they were in this Persian Gulf oasis, okay? Or the beings that were the symbolic equivalent of them, okay? I'm not getting into it, all right? There's lots of stuff that's true, more or less, in many of these ancient religious texts and scriptures, but it's often symbolic and complicated and not necessarily, obviously, completely literal, but yeah. Right there at the beginning of Genesis. And it's kind of funny, people read that and they seem to just move along, right? And be like, oh, that's okay. Well, I guess God changed God changed their mind. But no. There's a reason that after the fall, we're given dominion of everything. And we can just eat whatever we want, right? You want to get back to that paradise. Fruits, nuts, and seeds, people. That's the way. And that is the thing that is going to basically be your ticket to getting to where you want to get. Okay? So I want you to know I love you very much, and God loves you very much. The Great Father and the Great Mother. If you're curious about that, watch my videos about the basic metaphysics of the universe. Talk about the fundamental dual nature of God. You are wonderful. You are beautiful. And you're absolutely perfect the way you are. It's just about what you do with yourself, how you behave, what you eat. What you eat, as it turns out, most of all. Many blessings. We will see you again very soon for another midnight riff. Oh, all this fruit is just making me fruity. Delightful. See you soon.